After multiple attempts to get a hold of this person, it became crystal clear that there was no tour. This person lied. A lot of the stories that we're going to tell here are going to be Plug Your Holes related, Warped Tour related, but there are a lot of great stories that predate Plug Your Holes from all of us. We all have lives outside of this company and existed before this company, and some of these stories are the things that made this company possible, because without some of these experiences, at least for myself, I wouldn't be here now. And I don't mean dead, I just mean that I wouldn't have been able to think of the world or look at the world through the lens that I do. This is one of those stories. Before Plug Your Holes, I had been in multiple bands, and I've mentioned that before, but I typically don't say the band's names. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it is because that I close chapters in my life, and I don't want to be known for something that I used to do. I want to be known for the thing that I'm doing or will do. But it's been enough time. I think this is more of a nostalgia story. So all the way back in September of 2000, I and some friends started a band called Foreknown, and we were a band until 2006. In that time, we played a lot of shows, went on a lot of tours, but this story is about one of the first tours. In 2002, we did a couple small tours, impressed some people, and got signed to a label who put out a record. In 2003, we decided to tour on a split EP that we had put out that year, and the best time to tour at that time was in the summer. We were so lucky that we acquired a booking agent, and we had a bunch of tours lined up with really great bands, but something seemed a little off. When we left for this tour in June, we had a lot of tour dates that were lined up in July and August, but this whole back half of June, we hadn't really received anything telling us what our exact itinerary was other than the first date and a constant promise that when we get there, everything will be ironed out. Okay. I was a little naive, foolish, and really excited to get on the road. So Seth, Winter, Nolan, Alan, and myself got in a van and drove south. We started the tour in Cedar Rapids or Cedar Falls, Iowa. I'm sorry for anybody who lives there, whichever one is close to Waterloo. I don't remember it being a bad show, but what I do remember is me trying to get a hold of this booking agent the entire day and all that night. And this is before MySpace and Facebook and ways to get a hold of people other than just shooting them a text message or an email. After multiple attempts to get a hold of this person, it became crystal clear that there was no tour. This person lied. And every one of us has taken weeks off of work that we couldn't afford. We've sunk a bunch of money into a van and gear and merch. And we had no shows booked and no work for the next 2-3 weeks. And we were 10 hours from home. So I did what anyone would do. I got into the van and I drove to the next city that we had a show. 3 weeks away. We were playing a festival called Cornerstone Music Festival. Cornerstone is in the middle of nowhere. It's in a place called Bushnell, Illinois. So I decided, well, Peoria, Illinois is close enough because we've played shows there before and it's about an hour away from where the festival is. And the whole time, everybody in the band is asking, what are we doing? We all kind of were on board with this, like, let's try to make this work thing. I had booked all of our tours in the past. Let's just see what we can do. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was lofty. I couldn't imagine going home after the months and months preparing for this moment. So we found a local record store. I don't know if I had a game plan in my head yet, but when I walked up to the door, I saw that there was a show coming up with a band that we had played with a couple weeks ago from Colorado. I think their name was One Dying Wish. They were never a really big band, but I had one of their members' phone number in my phone. So I called them up and said, hey, we played with you last week. You don't owe me any favors, but could you hook me up with the promoter's phone number for your show here in Peoria in 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. So he's like, okay, sure. Well, it turns out that promoter was named Burke. Burke Van Rielt. Burke, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, I'm sorry. Burke would actually later go on to be the lead singer of With 10 Hens Rising, but in that moment, he was just Burke. He felt for us. He understood the dilemma that we were in. So he's like, hey, stay where you are. Actually, no, go to the mall. There's a mall across the street from you. Meet me there. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes later comes this tall, skinny, big grin kid. And he's like, hey, I was thinking about it. My band has a bunch of shows. Why don't you guys come play my band shows with me? We're like, I mean, sure, any shows will do. We're not even asking for money. Fortunately, some of them did pay, but we're like, wow, this is incredible. What a great start to our Not tour. In addition to that, we got on every website we could think of that would have any tours listed to see what bands were coming through these areas in the Midwest, anything within 6-8 hours. And we started piecing together this tour based on people we sort of knew and friends of friends of friends and promoters that I've never talked to in my life. And I gave them all the same sob story. Hey, we're not looking for anything. We're a touring band. We're just trying to do this thing. We got fucked by a promoter. Is there any way we can jump on this show you have? We managed to get on a Bleeding Through show, Bleeding Through and Under Oath in Milwaukee. We got on at least one other Under Oath show. We played a couple shows at As I Lay Dying, a bunch of shows with Burke's band Declaim. And I think we managed to, in 3 weeks, end up only having one off day that whole time. One piece at a time, kind of like the Johnny Cash song. And if you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. But I remember that moment just being so hungry to keep it going, to not give up, to not fail. And that band didn't go on to great things. We did our best, and we toured, and we put out a few records, and we had a few fans, but it was just a defining moment in the character of 5 dudes in a van trying their damnedest to go on tour and live out that fantasy. I was very fortunate to have those guys in that moment, and it's a story that I can't wait to tell my grandkids. Because sometimes making the rational choice isn't the right choice. Sometimes you have to be a little crazy. Sometimes doing what anyone would advise against is the right thing to do. And that's my story. Thanks.